Hey, everybody, welcome to another Practical Pet Chat. Thank you for taking time with Lorin and I. We really appreciate you. We know you've got a lot going on in your world, but maybe spending a few minutes with Lorin and I can open up a few eyes to things going on. Lorin, I want to talk about opening a few eyes. You know what? The online world, sometimes my eyes are open to positive things, other times they are negative things. And then there are those things that just make me shake my head and not to go back to the Marky Mark and Funky Bunch world of things that make you go, hmm, why? Um, I've seen a lot of that lately. And I don't know about you, but the justifications are sometimes worse than what they're saying. Do you ever encounter the, well, this is why I feel this way, or that's why I feel that way? And it's such a disconnect. The justifications for some of the wild stances out there just make me cringe and ask, really? That's the hill you're willing to plant your flag and draw the line on
Yeah.
because someone said something? Wow.
So, full disclosure, I admin for about 10 different groups, um, most of which are mine, but I do for uh, three other ones too that are other industry related groups. Um, groups when they started out, they were such a great thing to location for people to have conversation. And then what I have seen happen over the years, I think my oldest group is probably 10 years old or so. It's right at the beginning of groups. They've all changed. I have very staunch policies in my group that there can be no belittling or degrading or shaming or, anything like that, because everybody is at different places in learning. And that's an excellent group. I mean, it's practical pet feeding and wellness. And the people in it are phenomenal. It didn't start out that way. I had to get control over it. But what I have seen happen gradually over time in a lot of groups, because I'm also in about 300 and some groups that I don't admin for, um, is that we're losing people. We're losing people who are afraid to speak up. They're afraid to be called out. They're afraid to be laughed at. And so the benefit of the groups gets lost. And it's just so defeating. I mean, the whole point is to make people feel better about things they have questions on and to be a safe haven to get answers to questions, which then brings in another issue, which is who are you taking advice from? I'll see people pop up in groups, top contributor, because they have labels now for people, top contributor or group expert or, whatever. And people run with what they say. And I sit there and I'm like, oh no, that is not right.
Right.
That's not the right information. And I have over time, because I have gotten jumped in groups, just stopped commenting in groups. And I want nothing more than to help people. So I stick to my own groups because those people are in my groups. They know me. They're in my groups for that reason. They trust me and they're free to go elsewhere, and verify the information, see if that fits for them. If it doesn't, they go somewhere else. And I don't beat them up for it. It's like, if that doesn't fit for you, you have to figure that out. I can give you the advice and the suggestions, and I can give you the substantiating backup for that. But if that doesn't fit for you, it's not my way or get out of the group. But a lot of groups are that way. What I have seen more and more after so many supposed world experts have poo-pooed groups and the advice that people have gotten from them, is now they're developing their own groups. And the problems that I see are If the group is run by a vet, then absolutely the information must be correct. And that's not how that works because I can put 20 vets in a room and they're not all going to agree. They're not going to view nutrition the same. They're not going to view vaccines the same. They're not going to view supplements the same. Same thing with trainers and behaviorists and, any category at all. And so you have to take it all with a little bit of grain of salt, and it still falls on you to do some research. But what it really comes down to is everything's about marketing, right? If all you look at is the front of a bag of pet food, you're never really going to know what's in it. You're just going to believe what's on the front. If all you look at is the white coat, if all you look at are the initials after the name, that's not going to necessarily give you what you're looking for. Only you can decide that. So I just really feel like it's a cautionary tale and it's a regretful one because we have created what was supposed to be safe havens for people. We have created bastions of you must see it this way, or I'm going to ban you, I'm going to kick you out, I'm going to shame you, I'm going to let people beat up on you, I'm going to let people call you out, I'm going to tell you you're stupid, I'm going to tell you how wrong that is. It's going to completely degrade into an argument, or you're going to lose that person and they're just going to go away. How does that help the animals? I mean, I don't even see that. I don't get that. I just don't see the long view of this. And we've seen it in our own industry, Rob, where, an industry that should be cohesive has fallen apart from each other, from supporting each other, because there's so much, and there's ego involved, and there's, monetary goals involved, and, a number of different things that get in the way. And it's like, can't you just support, that person's trying to put themselves out there and help people? You know, I don't personally believe in XYZ, but that works for some people. And if you want to feed that way, I'm not here to tell you not to. I'm here to make it better, you know.
Yeah, and I think you just hit on something too, right? Is no one wants to see anything harmful, dangerous, etc. But just because it's not the way that you believe it should be done does not mean it's harmful, it's dangerous, it's something to be attacked. And that's the part that and I left doing some of the media stuff that I was doing. Um, it was very out front. I mean, to be blunt, I would, from TV to radio to, non-traditional online media, had a lot of things going. And that negativity and that penchant for wanting to be so extreme or so there's only one pathway
Yeah,
just made me go, that's not why I was doing this. And to your point, I just retreated back to, I'm going to help those that I know have a genuine interest as opposed to some. I love that you said keyboard warrior. Um, there's too many of those out there. And frankly, that was even before all the AI and all the rest of this that
right,
it just really, I you can't argue with a bot because a bot is going to, that's all they're really, in some instances designed to do is counter your argument with 24 other different counter arguments. I don't have time for that. I'm here for the beings. I'm here to help. And if I'm not helping, let me move on.
right.
And that should be the same approach. And it's interesting because I too, and I've got a lot of different interests out there. Um, so I'm part of a lot more groups than I ever was. And I will get into those groups that are being helpful, aren't being judgmental, much more than those that, oh, it's regressed into a, for lack of a better word, a horror show of who's the best and the right most of the time and blah, because nobody's right 100% of the time. Ain't none of you walking on water. Okay. And I love, and by the way, you're right. I've been in a room with hundreds of vets with the same subsect, and they still can't agree on
Yeah.
pathways. And these are specialists of the specialists. And so, and behaviorists and all the rest of that. And you know why? Because every being is different. So if you're out there and you're so sure in your absolutist way, I'm telling you, there is no one pathway to every destination. And the minute you make that claim, you really discredit yourself because there is always exceptions because every being is different, not only internally in their physical nature, but also mentally, spiritually, and all the rest of it. It is all a big holistic circle here. Okay. So you can have the answer for one part of that, but that doesn't mean it's going to flow through on all the rest. And that's the part that I think all too many folks, especially in the online space, are missing. And, you know, where we started off is that whole hill of it really surprises me and it disappoints me because I'll see a lot of people who I know and have known for a long time. And they'll justify, well, I read this from this particular, and I love that you said, you know, this vet group. That's great. That's great. And if you're a follower of that vet, okay. And if that's working for you, far be it from me to say that's not going to work. I'm not going to say that's not going to work because if it's working for you, that's the proof it works for you and your being that you're taking care of. But that doesn't mean it's the only pathway. And that's that hard part here is I see these hard shifts to one way or another. And it really gets concerning for me because when it doesn't work out, and you and I have both seen this, those folks who do shift and gravitate over to that one side of things because someone said something and they believe in that pathway and it doesn't turn out or it doesn't extend or it doesn't heal or it doesn't and then they want to beat themselves up. You know, I still like to believe most of us are not doing anything that if we had the foresight of knowing what the future would portend, we may or may not still take that path because that may or may still be the best outcome available. But I don't believe anybody's going, well, I'm going to do this with negative intentions. Because if
No,
you,
but you know, a lot of I can see how this comes about. You know, it starts off as it comes from a place of passion. You know, people are extremely passionate, but they're also not accountable when they're anonymous, you know, on a keyboard. Um, and and they get into it from a passionate standpoint, and then it just disintegrates into name calling and things like that. But you know, where I experienced it personally was, you know, with my store. When I discovered a particular way of feeding, I was overwhelmed with how passionate I became about it because the results that I saw were just so phenomenally different, you know, and I was like, oh my God, this is just amazing. And real quickly, I realized, hmm, so am I going to change over my complete store to what I have realized? And I struggled with that for a little while because I could, you know, I could have changed my entire setup to from the food that I was feeding to the form of food that I believed in. And real quickly I thought, what do I do about those people that feed this food over here? I mean, I still want to take care of their animals with them. I still want to have input. I still want food is not the only thing. It's the most important thing, but it's not the only thing. And if I don't keep them there, I can't affect their feeding choices at all. You
right,
know, I can't explain to them how adding fresh food to any form of food is going to improve that tremendously, you know, and I struggled. I mean, it was, you know, a couple of months that I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do here? Because I can only do what I believe in. So I realized that I couldn't eliminate. a particular genre or a set of genres for the benefit of another, because then I become an elitist type of segmented, only this one way type of business, which some people do, and they're successful at it. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to help as many animals as I could wherever they were at. And as time went on, and people maybe went over to that genre that I thought so well of, but then lost their jobs. It's like, would I just have kicked that customer out because then I had nothing that I could offer them other than what they were feeding, which they could no longer afford? Or would it be better to just have other options for them that I can help them make it better until they can get back on their feet? And it changed everything. So that changed in my group too, because, I think I brought this up before. When I saw the direction that my group was going into very early, um, because of the people that were in it at that time, I posed a question that I said, do you think people who feed XYZ brand love their dogs or animals less than we do here in the group? And I got an overwhelming absolutely. I'm like, oh, this is a problem. This is a
Yeah.
serious problem. No, they don't. Would I rather have an animal sit on the Green Mile at a shelter until they were put away? Or would I rather have somebody adopt them and give them as much love they could, but they couldn't necessarily afford that genre of food? Maybe XYZ is all they could afford. I'm going to vote for that every single time,
Percent. Yeah.
you know?
No,
And
yeah.
and that just changed everything for me, and I still carry that in my head when I look at groups and I'm like, you know what? I'm just not even going to comment.
Yeah. Well, I love, and you and I have had the expert discussion many times. So
Ugh.
I'm pro using the word. You are, for the right reasons, skeptical of the word. And I will say, when folks used to ask me, so, oh, you're a pet expert, I would say so many times, no, I'm a connector because there are so many different pathways. And then over time, okay, there's too many people who are using the expert word, and I agree with you on that. Um, and that's always been my goal and continues to be my goal, not just in the pet world, but in many of the things that I do. There are very few things that I feel I'm an expert in. And in those areas, I still don't think I'm an expert. Others may give me that label, but I don't. And I think that's what's important is I'm not looking to be the expert. I'm looking to connect you to people with information because to be an expert, and this is where I've come around on your thinking, you have to have all of the information to give expert advice. And these days, that just doesn't happen. People are too quick to, here's your solution.
Yeah.
Here's this, here's that. And we've almost given up. It's like, well, in this scenario, and if you read those studies, just more and more, I'm like, okay, the study is helpful, but is that a real world, real life scenario? And in too many cases, it's not. And so you can't say definitively with too many of these things that, well, this is the pathway we should all shift to, or we should
Well,
all
how
go.
many times have we seen a study get countered by another study?
Well, all the time. I mean,
All the time.
yeah, I mean, it's sad at this point. And I think where we're headed in this AI world is it's so funny because I will see people. Well, I ran this through and I, put together this big database and all that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, so you ran it through Chat GPT. And they're like, well, I used different AI tools. I'm like, yeah, okay, great. So now we're just going to get these AI studies. And while I appreciate the power and ability, and I certainly use AI consistently. But if you know anything about AI, it's about the prompts that you use.
Yeah.
It is about training it to understand what you're looking for. Oh, so predetermining where I want to get to with these things. I'm going to have a bias built in. And so that concerns me as well. And I'll just say, again, if it works for you, kudos. Share that. It worked for me. That's how we all learn. But if you're going to take a hard stances, this is the only pathway, I'm not buying into it.
Well,
Okay.
since you brought up the expert thing, I've been thinking about it as well. You know what we're experts on? Our own animals, because we live with them
Okay.
every day. And and even then, they're changing all the time. They're aging, they're developing, depending on the age they're at, whatever is going on. So you have to become a new expert all the time. And and
I
that's
love
why I hate the word expert because you're not you may be an expert right this second based on how you fed your dog and where your dog's at today. But tomorrow you may have something new you need to learn,
yeah.
in order to be an expert again. Maybe, all of a sudden they've developed some sort of a stomach issue, or their poop isn't good, or whatever it is, a behavioral issue. Now you're not an expert anymore, are you? Until you learn what you need to be able to address this. That's why I don't like the word expert, because the only thing you can possibly be an expert about is your own kid. And even then, it's a loose definition. But I think that there's a lot of information out there to take in, and I worry at the information that's put out there, much like I do about the marketing that's on the front of packaging, being what people buy into without considering further. I mean, and a good example, the reason we're even talking about this today is because you and I discussed beforehand that there are vets now that are recommending things like nutritional fixes like pasta, highly processed, and white bread, also highly processed. And it's like, oh no, and the vet is there in a coat, and got DVM and got, all, and it's like, and people are going to believe this and say, well, it's like the, 9 out of 10 dentists recommend, this is veterinary recommended. I can promise you that there's a vet somewhere or a doctor somewhere that you can pay that will go, yeah, hell, I'll recommend it. Sure. Could you add a zero to that check? I mean, this is not, let's be real here. So there's monetary gain to be had. And so we need to look at all that skeptically. And I just feel like that people are so desperate for answers, and for help, that they just are ready to buy into things without thinking further and without understanding that your animal is different than my animal is different from their animal, and all of that has to be individually looked at. When people would come into my store, they would come in and just say, what do you have? What's the right food to feed a lab? Oh God. Uh, no, it doesn't work that way. It's the same thing of I need so much information on your kid before I can guide you to a number of things. And I need information on you, your budget, your lifestyle, how what your time commitment is, what you have that you can uh, delegate to preparation, any number of things. There's information that I need in order to helpfully guide you and give you options, right? So to think you could just get a quick answer in a group that is specific to your situation and your kid can't happen. It just can't
No,
happen.
no, I like what you just said there, though. You're an expert on your environment, your pet. Um, I might argue on the environment thing a little bit, but from the standpoint of, I love what you said there too, because there are things that work for other people and they see the difference, and I can see the difference in their pet. And I'll go, okay, I'm open to that. Let me try that. And whether it was Sugar or Zoe or Belle, I know this. I could never have vacuumed Sugar. But if I say, hey, Belle, it's time to vacuum, she knows I mean it's time to vacuum her. And I will tell you, um, so I have now had a number of people that have visited the house when I'm doing that, and they're like, "Oh, is that one of those vacuum your dog things?" I'm like, "Yeah," because Belle's a husky, part husky, and so there's hair everywhere. You'll be wearing it when you leave the house today. If I don't do that, so you arrived early, so you get to see how we do this. Um, I That doesn't make me an expert on the science or anything. It just works for my environment and for Bell.
Right.
Would not have worked for the others. I also love that we talk about, let's be realistic, the ancestral pasta fields, that those ancestral dogs, those are long gone.
No, dogs
But
are still hunting for pasta. Some want lasagna, some want
I was
spaghetti.
just going to say, can we specify what kind of pasta? And Because I might be convinced if it's, certain vegetables made into a pasta,
No.
okay, I'll at least listen to your argument.
Yes.
But the
But
lost
that's not
pasta
highly
field,
processed, right?
that's true. But the lost pasta fields of Pompeii, um,
It's ancient pasta, they're calling it.
it's ancient
Like
pasta.
ancient grain, ancient pasta.
Well, and I will say I'm an ancient grains guy, so I will not rule out ancient grains.
Oh, don't get me started on
Yeah,
that subject. Ancient grains are not today what they were back then, and blah, blah, blah. So we'll save
that's
that
why
for
they
another
were
day.
ancient. Yes, no, they live
But you're
off
not
of
getting
that.
that now.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love, and that's by the way, that's the whole. We haven't talked organic. Oh my God, we have to talk organic soon. Um,
Organic and ancient grains in the same episode. We'll have to talk
in the
about
same,
those.
no, that's a 12-part series
I know,
brought
right?
to you by Reality. But yeah, no, oh my gosh, so much fun. Hey, all of you out there, I know we've probably had a few moments here where you're like, but thank you for your time. Share your thoughts. If you know of a ancient pasta field that we should consider,
No.
send that email. Lauren would love to read it. Practicalpetchat@gmail.com. Visit us on all the different places that you listen to us, social media, all the rest of that. Share your thoughts. Share our episodes with your friends. If nothing else, they'll learn about the ancient pasta fields that some vets still love you to visit for feeding. Not Lauren and I, thank you for your time. We really appreciate you. We appreciate your pets. Give them an extra belly rub or a pat on the head for us this week. Thanks for joining us here on Practical Pet Chat.
Thanks, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.